What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Memory Lane Unscripted, part interview series, part video game nostalgia trip. Memory Lane Unscripted is an offshoot of my video essay series with a very similar name, where I talk some cool games with some even cooler people. New episodes out every last Sunday of the month on this very channel, youtube.com/ShotgunMcPain, and Google Podcasts by searching Memory Lane Unscripted. Joining me today is one hot take. I was gonna say hot take handy, but you know what? That what works. None other than TJ Beckham himself.
Howdy, howdy. It's good to be here.
Good to have you. Well, since you're pretty new to, obviously, guests, but you're new to the whole video game nostalgia trip scene. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been gaming since I was a kid with playing Super Mario 64 with my dad. And since then, I've kind of played both parts of the console war, playing on PlayStation first, switching to Xbox, and sticking with Xbox. Although you can see I do have both of the new consoles behind me. Got a game where the games are. And yeah, I'm just a big fan of like strategy games, open world games. If it makes you think, if you lie to your friends, all kind of stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that you definitely come from a genuine place when it comes to video games, especially because I know it's passion. Because man, you have some of the hottest takes. What is your favorite game of last year?
Listen, man, I will stand by that Days Gone is not only the best game of 2020, but it's better than The Last of Us 2.
Also, it didn't even come out in 2020.
Yeah, but it's still the best game of 2020 and 2019. Cyberpunk ain't got shit on Deacon St. John.
See, I think we both have the same love for Deacon St. John. I just don't know if I can go down the same path and say it's better than The Last of Us Part 2. And I platinumed Days Gone.
Listen, man, all I'm saying is Days Gone had the perfect length to it, in my opinion. Last of Us 2? No.
I feel like they're the same length.
No, Days Gone is actually way longer.
Is it really? Yeah. That's great. Well, anyways, let's get down to business. This is like the first for the series. We have a repeat answer, a repeat story. But you know what? We're all about sharing the love, even if it's a similar game, even if it's the same game series we've talked about before. There's different experiences to be had. TJ, tell us about the game you brought today, or game series you brought today.
So it'll be, I'll kind of lead into it without saying it right away, but it originally started as a Prince of Persia game, and then got switched and amalgamated into its own one-off, and then quickly grew into Ubisoft's biggest franchise, and that is Assassin's Creed, which I am just a little bit of a fan of. Have to flash the tat whenever it's applicable. It's a game that is super important to me, a game series. I counted them just before we started. I have 8 statues lining my shelves. I would show them, but I don't want to mess up the camera. I've got flags, I've got keychains, Funko Pops, a music box. Like, I absolutely love this series, and that it has been a very pivotal part in my life for many, many ways, which we'll get into. But yeah, I had to think of something to talk about, and the first thing and the only thing that came to mind is Assassin's Creed.
Well, of course, it's very on brand. Like you said, like, I mean, I've seen your statues. I've seen your collection. I've seen the tat. I've been flashed the tat quite a few times. And man, like, you can definitely tell like with me with Kingdom Hearts is to you with Assassin's Creed, where you definitely, like, once you grabbed onto the franchise, it was there. It was everything, and you were looking forward to every single entry, whether it be a rhythm game, or you know, like a mobile game that is great for this series. And of course, I'm definitely talking about Assassin's Creed. I'm not talking about anything else.
Listen, if there's ever an Assassin's Creed rhythm game, I might have to black out my tattoo. That's where I get.
You gotta have the Assassin's Creed story. Where are you gonna get that mainline story? You know what I'm saying? Like, what happened to Altair after Revelations? Spoilers. Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. But well, tell us the story that you would like to share with us today on the video game franchise that is Assassin's Creed.
So I actually have a few. So like as I said, this series has actually impacted my life quite a bit. So like I think there's a couple key moments I'll touch on. But so going back to the original Assassin's Creed. So like I was late to the 360 PlayStation 3 generation. I didn't get a 360 until I think it was the drop of Halo 3 ODST. Oh, wow. So a few years in, and I initially had to play Assassin's Creed on my grandmother's computer because it was the only computer that was most powerful enough to run it. So I would go to her house every day after school and be sitting there playing Assassin's Creed, which at the time I didn't realize was just a chaotic mess of repeating the same thing over and over again, but I loved it. And I spent more time with my grandmother because of it, like because I would go there and I'd play it and she'd ask questions, and it was just nice to have that interaction with her. And then a few years later, after I got my 360, like got Assassin's Creed 2 from Blockbuster, and like that's what really kind of got me into the series. I'm like, wow, like Assassin's Creed 1 was fun, but holy crap, Assassin's Creed 2, they evolved the series in such a great way by bringing in this character Ezio that you kind of fell in love with, that a lot of people say is the best leading character in Assassin's Creed, which I can argue with, but I can't. He's my second favorite. Edward Kenway from Assassin's Creed 4 is number 1. But yeah, so like the first thing I would say is it helped me spend more time with my grandmother.
Nice. Yeah, I think we all have that sort of. I went over to my ex relative's house just because they had such and such. I mean, like when I was a kid, like one of the first experiences I had with PlayStation was going over to my cousin's house and playing Final Fantasy VII. And like, oh, I don't get this at all because turn-based. I'm a dumb kid, and but like it solidified in your mind, especially, and then like the weird ones. Like I remember being at my grandparents' house and playing Pink Panther Passport to Peril, and I loved that game. It was a point-and-click adventure game. I don't think it's probably a good video game, but you know, like we all have those memories where, and like even still, like I remember my grandmother having Juno dial-up internet, and she still tells me to this day, like, I know why you have such patience. It's because you waited 3 freaking hours to play the Lilo and Stitch like sandwich game. Like, you know what? Like I anyway I needed a game, I got it. But yeah, I think that's really kind of like, you know, just heartwarming. Like, I mean, did you still go back to your grandmother's house after you got the 360, or were you like, all right, grandma, it's time to see sayonara?
Well, it was a little hard at that point because she didn't have a house.
Oh,
she
okay.
Was, a bit down in the ground.
Oh, you should have led with that.
Well, yeah, I know. It wasn't as relevant. Like, it was when I was would have been in middle school, but like, yeah. So okay. It was it helped me kind of bridge with her a couple years before she passed. So
good.
Then, so I guess going on to the next part, this is probably the one that's going to be a bit the longest part of it. Getting real here. Let's get into those deep combos. In my first and second year of high school, so this would have been 2009, 2010, I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and I was having a really hard time at school. I was actually kicked out of my school because of my attendance, because I just didn't want to go. I just felt so awkward there, so worried. So after going through like these alternative programs where, funny enough, they would put me like one student to one teacher, which did not help with anxiety at all. Having one person's focus on you at all times really does not help. But so one solace I had like during that time was Assassin's Creed. Like Assassin's Creed Revelations. Like I remember getting the special edition. Like I actually have the encyclopedia that came with it, which is very out of date. But it helped me kind of like just escape from my worries and my fears and my own mental health, and just keep me like it was the one thing I found a solace in, and it was like that for years. Like I remember in a few years had passed, I was getting a bit better going. I was in a alt ed program at school, but I wasn't as it wasn't back in a full school. And then when I was starting to do better, I got hit again. Like I had a long depression episode. Man, I can't speak. Depression episode caught on by I realized my own mortality and my family's mortality, and it hit me hard. And I remember Assassin's Creed 4 was coming out around that time, and it like I remember that one. It truly helped. Like I went with a buddy. We did the midnight launch. I sat outside of an EB Games for 6 hours because I wanted to be the first to get it. By midnight, there was only 4 people in line, so I didn't have to wait there so long. But like the game just helped me feel better, and like that has stayed with me since. So like whenever a new Assassin's Creed comes out, like I take the day off, or in this case, like I took a week off because I want to sit there and escape and feel that happiness and that wanderlust again.
Yeah, I think that's such a great thing that video games do as a vehicle for, I mean, as somebody who also struggles with anxiety and depression, like, and you can check that out in my, not to plug, but you can check that out in my Kingdom Hearts video, and it's a very similar reason where, like, I didn't have many friends as a kid. Like, the friends that I did have were very strong, but, like, there weren't many of them, and I just, like, when I would come home, I would go up into my room and, like, Sora, Donald, and Goofy were there. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there's such a comfort, a coziness, especially tied to those formative years, to games that really helped you get through that time. I think also with the aspect of, I mean, that I don't have with Kingdom Hearts because it's not exactly a historical game, but I mean, Assassin's Creed's pretty, I mean, not anymore, but has been historically accurate in the past. And I bet that definitely helped you in a way get some sort of like, that's the great thing I always tell my mom, you know, when I was a kid. I was just like, well, like, it's, yeah, you're murdering people, but like I'm also learning about Leonardo da Vinci, and I'm learning about the pirates, and I'm learning about and different cultures. Like, it's just like, that's so cool, like the portal that video games provide, whether it be just for a split second or a lifetime. I think that they definitely can take your mind off of things and get you to a place where I think you feel better about things. Like you can kind of, like, especially like as someone who is, well, you know, dealt with his mortality at a very young age, like, and I still like think about, like, last night when I got to my bed, I was just like, man, like I'm like 25, like I'm going to be like 30 in less than 5 years now, because it's in April, and it's just like I feel like so close to my childhood, but it's so far away. And I think that more and more, I think that video games are the escape. And now I think with even video games like The Last of Us, that explore things that are deeper, you know, on surface level, whereas like Kingdom Hearts and maybe even Assassin's Creed at some points had it was a message, but it was under the layers, whereas like they can literally tell these stories. We have games like That Dragon Cancer that literally tell this story, this heartbreaking story, straight up with what people are dealing with. And I think that it is a great unifier, video games, whether it be multiplayer or otherwise. It's just like helping you understand your own life and existence. And I think that when people take it for granted, they people are, say obviously like the things that have been thrown around where it's like violence in video games is causing violence in real life, when in actuality like I think it causes the opposite. I think it causes, people to be more together and understand each other more. And you can definitely, there's so many people I've met in the gaming community that I just adore. I mean, especially like yourself, like it just like I don't think I would be here if it weren't for video games. But I don't want to turn this into a podcast about me.
Well, I 100% I agree. Like it's like especially your first point about like kind of latching on to things when you're in those mind states, when you're in like you're dealing with depression, anxiety, especially at its peak. Like for me, like Assassin's Creed was that, but also like I know this is a talk about video games, but like a movie, This Means War, starring Reese Witherspoon, Chris Pine, and Tom Hardy. It's a bad movie,
Yeah.
but during that time, it is just something that brought me joy. So like I remember on one of the worst days I had, I watched that movie 8 times in a row. Like it's just something that like brings you joy. And Assassin's Creed is one of those things. And for you, it's Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's having that escape. And I think like a lot of people do see video games like one of our buddies from the Kind of Funny Toronto community, we were talking about like his parents or his dad sees video games as like just a waste of time, which that can be argued, but like it is a form of escapism.
Mm-hmm.
It is a chance to disconnect, to put your worries behind and run around with Sora, Donald, Goofy, or run around and learn who the Borgias are. I didn't know the Borgias was a real thing until Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood. Like it's it gives you a chance to just feel different, to put your life on hold for a second, which again, some people may see that as not a good thing, but to each their own. Like and the learning thing again, like the Borgias, like there's a lot of historical stuff I've learned in Assassin's Creed because of it. Like like with Assassin's Creed 3, like I'm not American, like I'm a Canadian. I know some of American history because we're actually taught it in schools, ironically enough. But like I learned more about George Washington and the not the Civil War, the War for Liberation or whatever that was called.
Revolutionary War.
That's it.
Yeah.
I learned more about.
We learned a lot about the wars here, and we're always the good guys. No matter if we're bad guys, we're still good guys.
Always the good guys. But yeah, so it is definitely that point, and I do think it's like video games. Like I think regardless what you take them, it's a form of escapism, just like every other entertainment, and I'm happy they exist. I
agree. I think that's honestly. Do you have another story? Because I think that's.
I've got more.
Okay, yeah, keep going. Keep going then. I was gonna say that might be a good way to wrap it up, but I want to keep going. This is a great conversation.
So my next point, so that was like high school, and like Assassin's Creed 4 helped me. Assassin's Creed 3, which was just before that, going into Unity, which that was the weird year where they had 2 Assassin's Creed Rogue on last gen, the 360 and PS3. And then Assassin's Creed Unity on Xbox One and PS4. I had gone to a launch party event for the game in Toronto back when events were a thing, so long ago. And I didn't know what I was doing for school. Like I was in my last year of school, and this is like, so after all of my like depression, anxiety in school, I fought through it, got better, graduated with honors, and then was going to went back to a normal school, graduated with honors, and then was going to figure out what I wanted to do for college. And I didn't know. All I know is I want to work in the gaming industry, and specifically Ubisoft. Like again, they've been so good to me. I want to work with them. So I told myself, whether I'm cleaning toilets, making games, or selling games, whatever, I want to work for this company. So I went there on a mission to, of course, play the new Assassin's Creed, but also talk to staff and figure out what is up. And this is like a month after I got this, so it was fresh, it was beautiful, and I'm like, all right, let's just like make sure like I wear short sleeves, just
let's be the biggest show we can be.
Yeah, like make sure people see it. And so like I went through and I was chatting with people, and I met this one Ubisoft employee, Robin, who is actually now working in Ubisoft SF. She was one of the PR people for Ubisoft, and she told me, like, I didn't know what PR was. I wasn't sure like I knew like communications kinda, but like it's not something that's very much publicized, ironically, considering that's the job. Um, so she told me, like, she walked me through what like PR is, what she does at it, like, and even how she got to where she is. And she told me about the Humber, like Humber is a college that I went to. It's like the Humber College PR program. And then I met their community manager who, like, same thing. He talked about like how he kind of went through these steps. And so that night on the train home, I applied to the Humber College PR program, and that is the school I went to. Like, I discovered the career that I wanted and that I love because of Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed. It is it helped, like, it's hard to think that this game that already had so much of an effect on my life helped me make arguably one of the biggest decisions people will make in their life, of how they're going to survive, how they're going to keep the money coming in. And I have had the opportunity to work with Ubisoft so far. I don't work for them yet, but it just, they set me off on this path that I'm going on, and it's like, it's touching. No, again, this franchise that means so much to me has kind of given back to me in a way.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, as I'm just now figuring out what I want to do. Like, I think that's it's a very similar where, you know, like, I think that if it weren't for video games, it probably wouldn't have, like, come so quickly to me. I think it's funny how video games inform our decisions, not in the ways that people think that they inform our decisions, I guess. You know, like, I feel like a lot of the time there is room to be demonized, but that's again only on surface level. And like you said, you know, you figured out, you know, you overcame, you're one of the most smartest people I know, not to gush, but like, I would have never thought you struggled in school at all, you know, like academically at all. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah, like, I think, like, the fact that one of the first times I met you and you were like, yeah, so I'm reading the Steve Jobs book, and I'm like, man, I haven't read a book in like a century, it feels like, you know, like, I'm over here, like, I graduated just high school with C's and D's, you know, and kind of trying to make it one step at a time. But yeah, like, and then gaming pushed you further to be your best self, you know, and go after these things like Ubisoft, and try to figure out what you can do. Like you said, you're willing to do whatever you need to do to get in that and have that drive. And you wouldn't necessarily have that drive if you didn't already know, this is the company that means a lot to me. This is a company that has done so much for me, like, growing up, let alone, you know, what it can do in the future, obviously. Fingers crossed that you do get there. But yeah, like, that's kind of my journey. Like, right now, like, it's kind of weird that I'm working for a video game website. Like, even a year ago, if you told me that, like, no way. And to be talking to the people that I've, you know, like, that I've admired for a while, you know, have been really, really cool. And to think that that's, you know, like, if gaming were in my life, that probably would not have happened, is beyond me, you know. But yeah, again, I'm gonna pass it back over to you.
Well, yeah, it is definitely like, it's weird how, like, gaming, like, a lot of people, again, I said before, like, see it as just like a hobby and that, but like, we know people who that has not been the case, like, where it has this love for it has propelled them on to greater things, who have, and like, here's my hope, is that, again, Assassin's Creed, like, will eventually get me to Ubisoft, and it's kind of put you on these paths. Like, I know, not that I don't personally know him, but I know we both are fans of Kind of Funny, like Blessing, who he started something on the offshoot, and now he's working for them. Well, like, there's tons of stories.
Even like friend of the show Steve Saylor, like, him like getting the strides that he has over the past year, and pushing for accessibility to be a much more prominent thing in video games is phenomenal. And the fact that he's able to make something happen that he believes is important, and is important, uh to actually make that happen because in the games industry, and to be because of games, because you want to see that change, and he was the change that he wanted to see. And now you're seeing, you know, him talking, like being accredited on Last of Us, like helping with The Last of Us, doing accessibility there, doing some stuff with Ubi. Like I think that it's so cool to see other people that enjoy, like I never thought as a kid, like it's hard to see, like it's not hard, but that's not the word. It's interesting to see other people who grew up a similar way to me, like and had this passion for video games, sell so much even in the past year, you know, and to be able to make things happen is just phenomenal.
Well, to actually, it's not nearly on the same level, but Chris Hadfield, who is a Canadian astronaut and was the first Canadian commander of the International Space Station, which I'm a fan of space. But his book, I was reading, his biography, and it starts off with, like, when he was a kid, like, he watched a moon landing and he wanted to be an astronaut, but at the time there was no, like, how to be an astronaut, especially for a Canadian, because our space agency didn't exist. So it's not nearly on the same level, because going to space is not the same as playing or making video games, but I kind of, like, I felt that when I was younger, like, seeing, as a Canadian too, like, seeing, like, these people who are, like, G4, which G4, like, is coming
I was
back.
just gonna
like,
say,
seeing X play,
yeah,
like, seeing X play, and, like, oh my god, that's awesome, how do I do that? Especially for a Canadian, like, we don't have sites like that, like, we start to, but even then, like, our sites are either offshoots of American sites, or just sites that got big in Canada that are big elsewhere too, like Screen Rant.
Yeah, like,
it's stuff like that there's no really Canadian focused ones. But now, thankfully, like, shows like Squad State are popping up, or like Jinx Esports has a channel in Canada. Like, there are things like that popping up, so it is nice to see. And again, like, we're not there yet. I'm not there yet, but, like, it's nice to know that as we progress, we are having this, like, here is how you can get in the game industry. Here are those steps. We are getting to the point where there is kind of a tutorial, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing such rapid growth. I mean, I think it also helps that the fact that a Marvel movie is the highest grossing movie of all time. Like, if you would have told me that even 20 years ago, I probably would have been like, oh, I don't know, but we're pretty good, but I don't think anybody else thinks so. The fact that, you know, like, people actually know
the 23rd Marvel movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even just a Marvel movie. The 23rd Marvel movie.
Yeah, and the fact that people know who Doctor Strange and Rocket Raccoon is phenomenal. Is just mind blowing. But yeah, like, I think that as we've seen, like, this geek culture take over, like, I think we've seen exponential growth. Like I said previously, with Steve making accessibility more prominent in video games, and getting that started early in development, so that it can, you know, more people can have this experience, and more people can share this love and passion with as many people as possible. And I think that it's so cool to see just how many things have evolved even in the past 5 years with the gaming industry. And I mean, you know, it's like, you know, in one of my meetings that we had for work when COVID started, they're like, oh, we can tell who streams in here. Like, and I'm just like, yeah, I like, they're like, do you have a webcam? And I'm like, do I have a webcam? I have a whole setup, guys. And yeah, it's just like, it also, like, I think that video games also helped me get my job where I'm at right now. Not that it's my end game, but I mean, like, it definitely is at retail, where, you know, like, I am an AV tech for a community college, and I literally said in my one of the, not the interview questions, but the like the pre-write down or whatnot, it's like, I've been messing with AV setups for years. Like, I plug in composite cables, I know HDMI, I know DisplayPort, like, I've been gaming all my life, so I know what cameras to use, I know what editors to use, like, and I'm like, and that's kind of where I came to the realization. I'm like, oh, I like video editing more than I think. I like video side of things more than I think. And then on top of that, looking back and from the start with G4, well, I mean, even before that, like playing N64 games and kind of getting that experience, and then be like, oh, I really did enjoy these, but you know, like they're just something to pass the time. I'm sure I will. And then G4 happened, and I watched X play religiously. And then after that, like I went on the internet and Machinima and Destructoid and then IGN and then Kind of Funny. Like I'm like, there's a pattern here. There is something that is like I have been following throughout all of my years, and I'm just now noticing, oh, this is more than just I really love this. This is a passion. Like I love talking about video games. Obviously, I have several video game podcasts every which way. And yeah, I think that it definitely makes some good positive life choices and lets you kind of express yourself in any sort of way. Like especially like the greatest thing that's come out in the past couple of years with games is photo mode. The fact that like I have like 50 different photos in Spider-Man PS4, and they're all like, I feel like I'm living Spider-Man because I'm taking Spider-Man's photos. I feel like Peter Parker, and just without Jonah Jameson yelling at me. Yeah, so I think like the further immersion has been a real hot button topic, and it's really cool to see the growth of video games in general. So
for sure, like, and that goes to show like just how it's evolved with kind of aligned with entertainment. Like like for example today, like on my PlayStation 4 or 5, like I can play like Fuser, so like a music game, and just like chill out, groove out. I can go and play something like The Last of Us 2 if I want an emotional, like, driven experience that's a little too long. I want Days Gone if I want to play a perfect game. Like there's just so many like different experiences you can play, and like for me, like I'm not a platformer guy, but I finally downloaded Ori. In the first one,
yeah,
because I want to try it, but I've also been avoiding it because even though I love Xbox, the trailer made me cry.
Yeah, oh man, the first 10 minutes will make you cry for sure.
So I'm not ready for it. So I downloaded it. Don't know if I'm gonna play it yet, but I downloaded it.
Yeah, definitely, like literally the first 10 minutes of that game, you are going to cry, guaranteed. If you don't cry, you might be a monster, but
if the trailer made me cry, yeah. I'm pretty sure the game should make me cry.
Yeah, that was like the first emotional game of that gen for me, where I'm just like, oh no, like this is a platformer, and like I am dying right here.
See, I can only think of two games, or well, I guess two games that made me cry. One again was that's not the game, that's the trailer, and then the first Last of Us. I didn't cry at Last of Us 2. I was just like, The Last of Us 2 fucked me up.
Yeah, I agree. Cry. I feel like The Last of Us 2 is much more about like the revenge of it. Is less like, I mean, there's definitely tears shed for me, but like I don't think as many.
Actually, yeah, I'll take that back. I realized without going into spoilers, The Last of Us 2, there's a bit near the end.
There's a bit near the end. Yep.
That made me cry.
Yep. Yeah. With and again, no spoilers, but with Last of Us Part 1, there's a bit near the beginning, and with Last of Us Part 2, there's a bit near the end. Very awkwardly similar, but yeah. Do you have anything else for us that you'd like to share?
So, I think the last story I have is the one that's I got the most recent one and the most, I'd say one of the most powerful ones, although it depends on, I'd say the anxiety one probably still wins. So it was after I finished the PR program that I discovered because of Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed. I had graduated. I had done an internship at Bell Media, which is one of our largest like telecom entertainment like TV networks here. It's just a massive company to do everything. I did an internship there, and then I was having a lot of hard time finding work, especially straight out of school. So I was volunteering with this small 2-person PR agency. Like it was very like it was free work, but they let me put like it on my resume. And the one day I had told them like, hey, I can't help today because I'm going to Ubisoft Toronto. They thought it was for an interview. but it was really just for a playtest. So like, oh my god, like congrats, like you're gonna kill it. It'll be a perfect place for you to work. And then of course I'm like, no, sadly it's not for an interview. I would love if it was, but it's not. But so they then said like, oh, like I do have a friend who works for this agency, and I think Ubisoft is one of their clients. Let me reach out to them. So later that day, like I got con back from Ubisoft, had fun doing some play testing there, and then like I got an email, and so it was like the company I currently work for now. They had reached out and said like, hey, like our friend like said you're a huge Ubisoft fan. We're actually looking for some interns right now. Ubisoft is one of our clients. So I went in, had an interview. They liked me. They actually turned me down at first. They said like, sorry, we are going in another direction. And then a week later, they got an email like, hey, about that.
Wait.
Yeah. So it was the Monday they emailed me. I started on a Thursday and then was off the Friday. So and now like I've been at that place for just over 2 years. So and it's been a fantastic experience. Like I've had great times, I've had hard times. COVID's messed a lot up, but it's it like Ubisoft, while Ubisoft didn't directly lead to me getting this job, if it wasn't for Ubisoft I wouldn't have it. Like Ubisoft is the crux here that resulted in like them reaching out and like me getting the interview. Like it is my passion and my love for Ubisoft and my just wanting to be involved with the company now got me a job that has like is setting me up for the rest of my career. Like what I do here, whether it's still here or somewhere else down the line, hopefully Ubi, it is like the experiences I've had are great. And I got to work on Ubisoft. It was for not nearly as long as I wanted it to be, but I got that opportunity to work with the company. And while it was just a taste, again, there will be more down the road.
I was to say, you just got the taste, but now you need the whole bowl.
Yeah, exactly. I need the rest of it. But yeah, so like it is kind of that. It's not directly, but it is that thing of like the passion for video games, of the industry itself has led me to where I am. And again, I'm not working on video games now. But what I do now can definitely translate. So when I do work in the industry, either directly or indirectly, I'll be set up.
Yep. And I think you will get there. I am pretty sure you are a shoo-in, because you are a great person with some great thoughts, some great stories, and
you said great thoughts. I'm writing that down. Hot take king no more. Nick approved. Nick approved.
I don't know. Oh my god, I've done it.
I'm gonna clip it.
I'm sending it to Ubisoft. Can you see what he thinks of this? Oh, anyways, we have fun here at Memory Lane Unscripted. Of course. Thank you, TJ, for joining me. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Xbox, like every platform as @PrivateJebus, at PVTTJEBUS. And yeah, and you can eventually find me on potentially another podcast with Nick.
Yeah, something brewing there.
Potentially.
What's Ant's podcast? We'll take it. Something brewing or
yeah. Well, it's the Anthill.
Yeah. The Jason Mantzoukas cast. Anyways, inside jokes. And of course you can find me over at youtube.com/ShotgunMcPain, where you can find this very podcast as well as Google Podcasts. I finally have a way. I'm trying to figure out how to get on other podcast services, and I'm also going to try to get it with the co-op stop here soon. So I'm going to try to work on that this week. You can also find me over at Shotgun McPain on Twitter, and over at DualShockers, youtube.com/DualShockers. I'm doing some good work coming up. We got some reviews coming out. We got, of course, it's still review season. I'm sure there'll be much more discussions as well. And check out that PS5 video that I put out the other day. It's very good. Anyways, thank you, TJ. Thank you, audience. Have a great rest of your day. I love you. Keep gaming.
Toodles.